So example 3, put example 1 and 2 together, indicate the whole, find vertical or oblique asymptotes, and then verify. But just like before, we're going to copy our steps and paste them off to the side here. And start with our first equation. So, always begin by factoring to simplify. In part A, we would have x minus 4 over x plus 2, x minus 2. Our non-permissible values, x can't equal negative 2 and x can't equal 2. The question is, are those going to be vertical asymptotes or holes? They will both be vertical asymptotes. Step 2. Are we going to have an oblique asymptote or horizontal asymptote? We're going to have a horizontal asymptote. The degree is bigger in the denominator, which will give you a horizontal asymptote at y equals 0. So we can start our sketch. Add our asymptotes. X equals negative 2, x equals positive 2, y equals 0. Step 3, find our intercepts. The y-intercept is the easiest. Plug in 0 for x, and we get a y-intercept at 1. So we have 0, 1. Find your x-intercept. Remember that when you plug in 0 for y, the only time a fraction is equal to 0 is if your numerator is equal to 0. And so here, the only time my numerator is equal to 0 is at 4. So once again, it feels kind of weird, but it's okay. We have an x-intercept at 4, 0. And that is our only x-intercept, because that's the only place our numerator is equal to 0. So technically, we have enough information in the middle section to draw it, to get a sketch. Because from here, can it go up towards the asymptote or down towards the asymptote? If you went down, you would introduce another x-intercept. But we found the only x-intercept there is to be at 4, so it has to go up. Same thing in this direction. It can't go down. That would introduce another x-intercept, so it has to go up. For the rest of the graph, we are going to need some more points. We're going to need a point in this section. So I'm going to say, well, what happens if I plug in negative 3? Go up to my factored equation. Can you see in the numerator that you would get negative 7? And I would get, in this one, negative 3 plus 2 would be negative 1. Negative 3 minus 2 would be negative 5. That simplifies to negative 7 over 5. So I plot that point. Wow. This one is totally, there we go. Negative 3, negative 7 over 5. And that's enough in this section to say, towards the asymptotes, this is what it has to look like. At 4, 0, I can't tell from this point whether it goes up towards my asymptote or down towards my asymptote. But if I found out what happens when I plug in positive 3, so again, I'll erase the green that I had here and plug in positive 3. 3 minus 4 would be negative 1. 3 plus 2 would be 5. 3 minus 2, I would get negative 1/5. So if I write that point down, negative 1/5, well, now I know this part has to go down like this. And I also don't really know what's happening to the right of 4, 0. So anytime you're unsure of what's going to happen, find another point. So I'm unsure what's going to happen, so I'm going to plug in 5. Go back and erase the green that I had and plug in 5. If I plug in 5 into my numerator, I'm going to get 1. 5 plus 2 is 7. 5 minus 2 is 3. I'm going to get 1 over 21. Which is a positive number. So I know that it goes up for a little bit, but I have an asymptote that tells me what happens when x gets really, really big. So it goes up for a little bit. It's got to come down sometime and approach that asymptote. But I know that it's approaching the asymptote from the top, because I could label (5, 1 over 21 right there. And we've done each of the sections, and we have our graph. The question asked us to write our domain. If you used set notation, you would say that your domain is x is less than negative 2, or x is between negative 2 and 2, or x is bigger than 2. You could say the same thing in interval notation. In interval notation, you would start at negative infinity and go to negative 2, round bracket because it's not included. Then you would have from negative 2 to 2, round brackets. And then finally, you'd start at 2 and go to infinity. And instead of writing the word or in between, in interval notation, you put these big U's. So that would mean the same thing. We have 3 minutes. Do you want to graph this one in 3 minutes? Yes? Think we can do it? All right. Super fast. You watch the video later. First of all, we factor. X plus 2, x minus 2, difference of squares, x plus 3, x minus 3. We have non-permissible values. X can't equal negative 3 and x can't equal 3. Those are both vertical asymptotes at x equals negative 3 and 3. Number 2, horizontal or oblique. The degrees are the same. We have a horizontal asymptote. If we just look at the x squareds, we'll have it at y equals 1. That's where we'll stop.